Hey, everybody. Welcome to today's YouTube interview as we talk about leadership development. And today, I'm so excited. I got a really, really good friend, Stevie Flockhart, with us today. Stevie is the founder, church planter, pastor of 901 Church in Memphis, Tennessee. He and I have been friends. Goodness gracious. We met, back in 2010, right?
Yeah. 12 years. Yeah. I just got married. Unbelievable.
Yeah, man, it's been fun watching you journey over the years and watching you grow in your leadership and influence. And so Stevie, just tell you a little bit about him. He's married to Whitney, one of my favorite couples in the world. They have 3 children, Finn, Judah, and Isla. I love watching Isla on social media. She is a trip. She's a comedian. My goodness, she's funny. And just Stevie's just been a friend for years. And when we first met, I don't know what it was, we just hit it off. We started hanging out together. We became workout partners. And so we were workout partners for years until you abandoned me. You abandoned me to go plant a church. That became more important than being my friend all of a sudden. So.
Yeah. I told you could have driven an hour to work out with me anytime, But,
Well, man, thank you so much for joining us today. And the focus of today's interview is going to be around developing your staff. And but before we dive into all of that, tell us a little bit about 901 Church.
Yeah. Well, first off, man, I'm so honored to be on here with you, that you would even ask. I do owe much of, if not all. I mean, people would ask me often, how are you, the pastor that you are? How did the church get to where you are? What's the success that you've had? All the questions. And I'll often say the grace of God and Mac Lake, truly. And so just the development that you poured into me. So thank you again, man. And one of the greatest blessings of my life, being able to spend those 3 years with you almost every day in the gym. You were there 7 days a week. I was a slacker. I was like 5, but really just kind of what you poured into me. So thank you. But we moved to Memphis, Tennessee about 4 years ago to plant 901. So excited about it. God put a passion, a fire in my heart 10 or 12 years ago. So we planted in Georgia, spent a few years there, went down to Florida, and then God just made it true and evident. Go back to where I originally called you, the 901. So we came here, spent about a year just developing a core group. There was already a church kind of meeting. We shut that down. I'd like to tell people, there was about 50 of them meeting when I got here. And within 3 months, about 40 of them hit the road and said, man, forget this. I'm not a part of this. But that goes back to what you had even taught me years ago, cast vision so clearly that people either run after it or run away from it, And so just the culture we were having. So we lost a lot of people. We really started with about a dozen people. And God is just, I could talk about that the entire podcast and I won't, but 600 people saved in 3 years as a church, 400 people baptized. It's been unbelievable. It really has. It's been an ultimate, just a God thing. Absolutely. Credit to him and the faithfulness to his people. But it's been unbelievable. It really has.
Well, it's been fun for Cindy and I to watch you and Whitney thrive there. I've always known you've got such a gift for evangelism, and then you are such a great communicator. So it's been fun to watch God use you in this way. Hey, I've been watching you. And you do a lot of leadership development with your staff. And I absolutely love that. You got a young staff. So why is it so important for you to invest time in doing this with your team?
I think going back to, and again, this is conversations that we always have as a staff, and as leaders, being strategic about accomplishing a mission, so we are here to accomplish a mission, to build the kingdom of God, to make disciples, to see lost people saved. And so it's the Jesus model. It really, really is. I believe that leadership development and discipleship development go hand in hand. When you're discipling people, you better be developing leaders, because Jesus didn't just disciple guys and teach them scripture. He wanted to change the world. So he took those 12 men and invested in them. So for us, it's constantly evaluating how we're doing, constantly looking at, hey, are we living out the system and the processes that we said that we were going to do? But it always goes back to the mission. What our vision statement is, a mission statement, so that people would be reached and lives would be changed. That's our way of saying we exist, we're here. So a whole lot of people get saved, but a whole lot of disciples get made. So one of our primary ways to do that is to develop leaders. One of the most encouraging things to me, and I mean this with all of my heart, is to watch my staff develop leaders who start developing leaders, and again, and when that happens, it's the Jesus effect. Jesus is not about addition. Jesus is about multiplication, and so that's how the kingdom of God is built. Ephesians 4, we're here to equip the saints. And when we equip the saints, when we reproduce the leaders, when we build the relationships with the people, you cannot help but to see multiplication take place. So it's encouraging and it's exciting. It really is. It's exciting.
Yeah. I love that you're framing this as discipleship because,
Sure.
you and I agree on that.
Yes.
Have you helped your staff see leadership development as discipleship? Has that been a transition in their mindset?
Yes. And I don't think that's the case for everybody. And it needs to be taught and it needs to, because vision will leak, So I think, and again, we could spend a lot of time on that, unnecessary time, but like this argument of, well, there's leadership, there's discipleship, there's this corporate talk about leadership. It's like, well, hold on a second, because that's exactly what Jesus did, And so true. I mean, what did Jesus do? He made disciples. How did he make disciples? I mean, there's just these 3 or 4 or 5 huge rocks and principles, but many, and it all goes back to leadership development. He saw something in these 12 men, and said, I want to pour into you. But he didn't just give them a to-do list and say, have a good one. He spent 3 years with them. And then finally he was able to leave, and through the power of the Holy Spirit, they took what he put into, and they made more disciples. How did they make more disciples? By raising up leaders and equipping leaders and multiple. So, and again, I think it's silly that even when that's even an argument, but discipleship is leadership development. Leadership development is discipleship development, so. Yeah.
How many staff do you have? I see the pictures, on.
I have 12 staff members, 11 full-time staff, 1 part-time volunteer that just helps, financially, but on the finance department, but 12 of them.
Yeah. So very much like 12 disciples. Yeah.
Right. As I said that, I want no more. Just to know, I'm just kidding.
So you've been discipling this group of people. Your staff? What's some of the payoff you're seeing?
So I'll say this, and this wasn't even kind of in my notes until you just asked it. Every single person on staff, except for 1, first attended 901 church. Volunteered at 901 church. We saw something in them and we spent, 6, 7, 8, 9. Now, again, I'm a church plant, so it comes in, where I could hire people in 2 or 3 years, maybe someone it would take, years of that, but seeing something in them, pouring it into them. So every single staff member, except for 1, walked through the pipeline. And so there's just such value in that, because not only are you able to identify those leaders, you're able to spend, an immense amount of time with those 3 or 4 people that spend an immense amount of time with 3 or 4 people, but they're also entrenched in your culture, your values, the way that you do things. And so there's this level of trust where, and I'm not saying there's a right or wrong way. If you hire from the outside, I'm not saying you're doing it the wrong way, but there's something special about leading people through something. And now you can truly trust them, not just from a scriptural standpoint, not just theologically. That's not, because you need to be able to trust that for sure. Trust them with, this is how we do things. This is what we believe. This is our culture. That's the word. This is our culture. And so it's powerful. It is.
And you know what? I mean, I know you guys are early into this, but it's something you're going to see as a result of this is when your church is growing, as it continues to grow, and you need to hire more staff, you're going to have your current staff going, hey, I got somebody. I think we need. It's probably already happening.
Yep. We're looking at campus number 2. We're probably 18 or 20 months out from actually launching it, which means we're days away from staffing it and hiring it and developing it. And I'm just telling you, what you just said is true. There's already 2 or 3 names. Be like, hey, kids coordinator, campus director, campus pastor. So there's already that taking place. And so now, and I know we'll probably get to these questions, now it's all right, how do we get them there? Because it'd be foolish to hire them tomorrow, or expect them to be able to do the job tomorrow. But you go, hold on, we're 18 months away, we're 24 months away. This is what's expected. How do we get there? there's a system, there's a process that's already in place to have you move to that level. So,
yeah. I mean, you've heard me talk about the difference between leadership placement and leadership development. And we do that on the volunteer level all the time. We do leadership placement, but there's a lot of churches that do leadership placement at the staff level. They just, hey, we need a student pastor. They go to a search. They try to find somebody. They place somebody. Might be a highly skilled person, but the DNA mismatch. Right. So, you know, a year later, boom, that person's out the door and you're searching all over again.
Sure. You wouldn't be surprised, but I think some listeners would be surprised by how many people would hire somebody with every single skill set, great communicator, high energy, you know, self-starter, you know, highly relational, but 6 months, 9 months down the road, it's like, they just weren't a good fit. Why? It's like, and they can't even put their finger, it's like, but here it comes down to culture, you know, it just does. The DNA, it's like, they just weren't, I don't know, it just didn't work out. But we know why it didn't work out, you know, so it's true.
Exactly. Hey, give me some examples of what you're doing that makes your leadership development with your staff transformational.
Yep. So, you know, we talked a lot about soul care the last few years, you and I, you know, and again, you helped me with that a lot. I'm going to keep just giving you kudos for everything that you poured into me. But it's an old John Maxwell statement as well, that people just don't care how much you know till they know how much you care. And so, but in the same conversation of soul care, you can't truly care for 20, 30, 40 people. But I know I can truly care for 3 or 4 people, truly care for 3 or 4. And if I'm really pushing it, 5 or 6 or 7, you know, but that's kind of the limit, you know. And so I guess, you know, there's that answer to that question could be a ton of different things, but transformational in the sense of this leader, this person, this pastor, this director, this team lead cares about me. I'm not just a slot to be filled on Sunday morning. You know, I fell into that trap early on in my first church plant. Never, ever at the deepest part of my heart was, I just want to use people to fit. But because of the lack of leadership development, me doing everything myself, people started feeling like they really weren't cared for. And they'd only get an email from me through Planning Center when they were needed. Well, that broke my heart because, you know, I mean, I love people and I'm a relational person. So it's never on purpose. But if you're not strategic and intentional, the people that you're trying to lead or the people that are following you just feel like you're using them, that they're just somebody that needs a spot on a Sunday morning. So I guess, you know, again, there's so many ways I could answer that, but just the transformational, hey, love on those 3 or 4 or 5 people like they're your family. Have them over at your house. Teach DNA, teach vision, cast vision, not just on Sunday mornings during your huddles, not just at Heart and Soul that we do 4, 5, 6 times a year, which I love and think is very, very important. But when being very intentional, but then challenge them, equip them, and hold them accountable to loving and carrying on 3 or 4 or 5 people themselves. That's what I've seen has just been revolutionary. You know, so again, it's not this trick or this tactic to get more people. We're called to love people. We're called to serve people, and we truly are. And that's happening at the multiplication level. It's transformation. You can't help but to transform that, you know, because it's real and it's raw and it's genuine, and people want that more than anything else, to feel like they're appreciated, that they're loved, that they're a part of something. And when they are, and I think they go the distance for you, you know?
Yeah. That type of love, care, appreciation, attention, it's like it creates a soil to receive the seed of development. Yeah. And that's one of the things that really, you and Whit were here at the house several months ago. Yeah. And it's one of the things when you left that really struck me was how both you and Whitney have invited people into your life that you're doing development with. And so it's not just, hey, go through this class with me or go through this book. Hey, no, come over and let's have dinner together. And it's much more integrated into your life.
Absolutely. So there's those 12 to 13, 14 that we spend a lot of time with, you know, a lot of time. But there's those 3 or 4, I'm going to say 3, that we spend the majority of our time with, you know, at dinner, you know, but also, so watch, and it's this simultaneous effect. Yes, they're over for dinner. Yes, you know, there'll be vacations together. Yes, there's trips, you know, yes, I'm going downtown, right? But also, hey, I'm about to go do a funeral. and I'm about to love on this family. I want you, and I'll use his name, Ty. He's just kind of, I call him my Talmud. He calls me my rabbi. I'm his rabbi. So yes, his pastor, his boss, but his rabbi. I say, Ty, I want you to go with me. I just want you to watch, I just want to ask you a question, just because you don't know, but it's just funny. It's like, just watch. Well, now there's been times where he's asked, hey, I know you're going to that lunch. And sometimes you have to say no for confidential stuff, for sure. But hey, anyway, I can just go and just sit at the table and hear you and that other pastor talk. That's unintentional, intentional, strategic, but development. You know what I mean?
Oh,
and so,
yeah.
so he's there, and that's what I'm trying to explain or communicate. He's there because I want to develop him, but he also knows he's there, and it's an honor to be there because I love him and I care for him, and that not just anybody gets invited to go to a funeral or a lunch with me. You know what I mean? And so it's powerful. It is.
I heard somebody say recently, one of the missing ingredients in so many believers' lives is someone looking at them and saying, come follow me.
Man.
And it's so true. It's so true. We got to get back to leadership development being centered around relationship, looking at a few people and saying, follow me, follow me. You'll learn as we go together. It seems you're doing other things as well. Like I know, like right now, you're seems like you're reading books together. Is that something you do on a regular basis?
Always, yes. We read probably, I guess, 6-ish books a year just as a staff. So again, that's not the only thing. So you can't, how do I develop my staff and how do I change my life? Read this book. It's like, we can do what it says, have other practices. But we read that book, and right now we're actually reading, and you don't know this, I know this wasn't a setup question, we're reading Multiply Effect right now as a staff. And so just walking through what that means, what that looks like. And then again, what I believe we have that's very, very powerful. We don't just have a leadership development process. We don't just have a pipeline. We don't just have a system or a plan. We have an evaluation meeting. We evaluate everything. So we don't just evaluate the services. We don't just evaluate the kids' hall and the kids' worship. We evaluate our leadership development process. Are we winning? Are we scoring? And I can honestly say there's been seasons where we go, we're not doing too well right now. What could we do better? What's happening? So yes, we're reading books. We've read some great books recently. You Little Jerk, Larry Habaka. It was so good, talking about culture, honors, reward. Crazy Faith by Mike Todd recently was a huge one. But right now we're on Multiply Effect, and just figuring out what that means to continue. We're already doing a good job, but we don't want to stop. We don't want to limit ourselves, and we don't want to be our own lids. So we're constantly reading. I think that's important.
Love it. What are some specific changes you've witnessed in your staff because you've invested in their leadership development?
Yeah. So on a surface level, just kind of the practical stuff, less stress, less having to do everything yourself, better sleep at night. I mean, that's that surface stuff. But again, going to the deeper level, I guess it goes back to that, the mission's being accomplished. And anytime somebody feels like they're a part of something bigger than themselves, that already excites them. But then when they realize that they're not just a part of it, but they have ownership in it, that they're leading that, my goodness, that's what I mean. They'll go the distance for you, And so I think that's probably what I've seen over the last few years, and not even just with our staff, but our people that have followed this, like they're a part of something, they're a part of, so that's when you're tying, your processes into your vision and your culture. So when you talk about those 600 people that have been saved in just 3 years and 2 months, that's extraordinary. You don't just say, because again, going back to this illusion when I first planted the church, okay, it was all about the Sunday's coming, we just got to have church, preach good and have good music, and everybody in the country is going to come to your church. That was the craziest, most silly, stupidest thing I ever believed in my life, But now tying back into, you're constantly letting your church know, from the stage, but in the huddles, and those 3 people that you're having at your church, those 600 people that have been saved it could not have happened without you. Oh, well, thank you. I'm going to tell you why, how you've walked through this, who you've developed. I don't know if there's 150 kids in each service right now without you being a team lead back there, pouring into those 10 people that are volunteering on that third and fourth and fifth grade level. So again, you're constantly casting vision and constantly letting them know this is where we're going, but we have only been able to get this far because of you. And that's inspiring to people. It is, so going back to the staff, the same with them. Guys, I believe this is not biased. I have the greatest staff ever, so I'm sorry, whoever's listening, I got the best, and so they're just amazing. They're great leaders. They're great people. They're so teachable. I think that's one of the, you asked me one thing, what do you need in somebody? Teachability. I think you can take teachability. You can take that person to the next level all day long. And so this just, yeah.
I love that you said you got the best staff in the world. That speaks volumes, because the higher belief we have in people, the higher the belief they're going to have in themselves. Yeah. And I think there's so many staff who are sitting around wondering, am I doing what he wants me to do? Am I hitting the mark?
Yeah.
And am I who, they expect me to be? Am I accomplishing what they want me to? I don't know. I don't get any feedback. And I don't feel a sense that somebody believes in me. Yeah. And you're right. I mean, you can't develop somebody without believing in them.
Yeah. Right. And again, because it goes back to this false surface relationship. And I think over time, people see right through that, maybe not at first, but people see, it's like, I don't really think this person believes in me. Or as a leader, maybe you do, you just haven't communicated it clearly. One of our staff values is, we've got each other's backs, so we put courage in each other. We encourage each other. And so when the time comes, and again, this kind of off subject, but on subject, for pastor leader, if you are constantly pouring into your staff, constantly telling them how great they are and why they're so great, not just great job Sunday leading worship way. Man, the way you get up there and just so passionate, you can tell that what you're reading and praying comes out up on, and you're constantly telling them that, hey, so-and-so, the way that you're leading your people and how you're taking it, constantly doing that. The one or two conversations you have to have every once in a while about, hey, what's going on here? They hear it, they believe it, and it's truly, they just move right along. It's not, oh my God, am I going to lose my job? Oh my, I guess he doesn't think I'm that. I can honestly say that's not even part of our culture in any way, because of the amount of time we've spent encouraging and building each other up. The few times we have to have growth challenges, conversations, even conflict or tension, we just move right through it because of what it's built on, foundation.
So good. Love that. Great principle. Hey, why do so many pastors not do leadership development with their staff? What do you think? I mean, I talk to staff all the time. They're like, I wish we did leadership development. Why do senior pastors not do this type of development with their staff?
Yeah. I mean, goodness, it's hard. I think I alluded this a minute ago about Sundays coming. I think every pastor wants to, so I'm able to share this personally because it happened to me personally. I think we're doing a great job now, but I haven't always done a great job at this. I planted that first church. And again, I carried some shame for a little bit, and then the Lord helped me through that. But I had Mac Lake as my mentor and spiritual father for 3 years, and working at Westridge and being able to go to some of the conferences and the people. Why does my church failing? Why is it failing? And I think, look, nobody sees it at the moment, but looking back, we always have 20/20 in hindsight. Sunday was coming for me, and so since we are people, so not just leaders, not just pastors, but humans struggle with this instant gratification. If I do something on Tuesday, I want to see the fruits of my labor on Friday. Well, at that time, and I'm an impatient person, by nature, it's, well, hold on. So yes, it's important. Yes, I need to do it, but I got to get everything ready for Sunday. I got to get everything ready for groups coming up, so are the kids volunteer scheduled? Is the band going? I work on my sermon like Saturday night before I go to sleep, whatever. It's like, all right, Sunday's coming, and nobody plans it. But before you know it, you've gone 9 months. And all you've worried about is this weekend thing. Nobody's been developed. Nobody's been equipped. I said something on social media a few weeks ago, and I'm actually writing a book myself, and it's the chapter. Everybody wants to change. They just don't want to change too much to change, Yeah. Same with leaders. It's like everybody wants to develop, but you got to discipline yourself. You've got to make time. You've got to spend the time with the people. Well, you're not just doing that. Yes, the decisions that we make impact tomorrow. Sure. but the decisions we make today impact a year from now, 10 years from now. And so if I want another campus and campus pastor and team ready in 2 years, I've got to start developing those people yesterday, not the Sunday before we launch because it's coming, And so I think a lot of pastors, it's hard and it's not this instant gratification. We don't see the fruits of that labor in 48 hours or even 7 days. You're talking years, maybe months, but years down the road to really see the fruits of this labor. And that's a hard thing for anybody. It truly is.
It is. I think a lot of us, we're so wired to spend time. So we need more leaders. So I got to spend time developing leaders versus changing our thinking to investing time. So if I want a great return on investment, then I'm not just going to develop a leader. I'm going to develop developers that will develop other leaders. That way I've invested my time. I've doubled my return on investment. And we just don't pause long enough to think, how can I invest time that will bring a greater yield later? Because we panic and we spend time trying to solve the immediate problem. Now, what would you tell a pastor that says, hey, Stevie, hey, glad for you. Glad you're doing leadership development with your staff. I'm too busy to do leadership development with my staff. What would you tell them?
I'd say you're about to have a whole lot of time because you're not going to be a pastor in about a year. All joking aside, I mean, yes, but back to what we just said, it's got to be a priority. Think the long game. It would be so silly to think of a farmer or someone in agriculture. I don't have time, to. That's what you do. That's what you're called to do, or it'd also be silly for this farmer to plant the stuff and do the deal and go out there a week from now and be upset that the crops aren't grown, or even in our financial investments a week from now, I thought this was going to accumulate, interest. That would be silly, same with our kids, play the long game. I know you don't have time. And I think you answered that question, better than I could. Investment, not spending it, and so take the time. Do the hard work. And again, this is a biblical principle. We will always reap what we sow, always, and we always reap more than we sow. And so sow the labor, do the hard things, meet with the people, love on the people, build the people, invest in the people, and it will come. It just will. It will. Yeah. It will. But you will reproduce who you are as well. So be careful that you're growing yourself and what you're doing. So
I can tell you just love developing your staff.
I do.
And so what is it that brings a joy to you in developing your staff? Because I've not always seen that in you, but I see it now.
Yeah. I think so. We just talked about the fruits of your labor. I did the hard things for the period of what you don't see the fruit. You don't see the crops. You don't see the investment. Now you can't stop. You can't become, we've arrived, we've developed, we've multiplied. We had 12, now we have 38. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm experiencing now, wait, this is what happens when you do the hard work 3 years ago. Yeah. This is what takes place when you invest the time, the energy, the money, your intellect, all the things that you've learned 3 years ago. And so what I think we've seen over the last really, and COVID kind of put everybody for a loop. When we came back with 90 people and now averaging over 1,000 people on a Sunday morning, it's not just because I preach really good. We've got some good music because I'm an above average preacher and our music is phenomenal, but it's developing those leaders, developing those people who are inviting. Again, it's transferable with everything. People inviting friends because they've experienced this, people volunteering because they've been in volunteer, but leadership development goes into that same process. Leaders are doing it and I'm doing it. Staff's doing it. Team leads are doing it. Directors are doing it. And you're now living in everything that you'd hoped would come. And when you're living in that, it inspires, because again, at least for my personality, I go, we don't want to stop. We're here to change the world. We're here to advance the kingdom of God. We don't want to see just 600 people saved in 3 years. We want to see 1,200 people saved in the next 3 years, And so when you're living those fruits and you're experiencing and you're picking off the fruit on that tree that you planted 3 years ago with blood, sweat, and tears, at least for me, that inspires me to plant some more trees and to do whatever it takes to continue to do it. So.
Yeah. I love it. I love it, man. You're stewarding your team well. And I talk to so many church planters who pray that God will bless their church and give them more and more and more people, but yet they don't do the stewardship work of developing a big enough pot to receive that which they're praying for. Yeah. And so it's like God is being gracious by not answering their prayers for growing their church.
Saving your life and your marriage. Yeah. So.
Oh my goodness, because you're not prepared to receive that which you're praying for. And put in the work. Great word of advice. Hey, how can people learn more about your church, and then especially more about your podcast, Essentials podcast that you and Whit do? Tell us how to find that. Tell us what it is, and then how to find it as well.
Sure. Yeah, our church, I mean, all social media, we're 901 Church, and that's it. So you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all that good stuff. Website, 901church.com. But our podcast, I am with my wonderful, amazing, stunning wife. She steals the show. I just give my input every few minutes, no doubt about it. But that was just such a cool thing. Quickly, again, talking about developing, and you're pouring into people, but everybody does want time with the pastor and his wife. They're going through trouble with their marriage. Everybody, can you sit down with us? Well, again, I am a relational person. I might even have some people pleasing deep inside of me. So it's like, and I'm having to say no to people, and I'm developing my staff. But Whitney comes to me and goes, hey, all these people want to meet with us. What if we just did a podcast to, speak into their lives? Like, wait, we can meet with thousands of people at one time,
Yeah.
Ding, 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 ding. And so
they're always asking the same questions anyway.
Yes. So it's been powerful. It's been really, really helpful. And again, it's a car drive's worth, 22 to 26 minutes, really practical. You and Cindy, and I know you've listened and you're encouraging, but it's probably not going to revolutionize your life. It's the people going, hey, and one day it might be something different, but right now it's for the people. Hey, I just want to be a better husband. I want to be a better wife. I don't know how to parent my kids. There's leadership sprinkled in there for sure, but I'd encourage anybody to check it out for sure.
All right, man. Thank you. This has been such good stuff. Thank you for joining us today. Love you, man. Proud of the work that God's doing through you.
Thank you so much. Love you and Cindy, your family, and couldn't do it without you, man. Thank you.